In the beginning there was nothing but a vast emptiness, no light, no form, no sound, a silence deeper than time itself. But within that silence dwelled infinite power, the Spirit of the Almighty, hovering over the formless void, preparing to bring forth existence. Then came the Word. With divine command, light burst forth, piercing the endless darkness. "Let there be light," and there was light. Radiance spilled across the emptiness, separating day from night, and for the first time, creation stirred with order. On the second day, the expanse of the heavens was stretched out like a canvas. The waters below and the waters above were divided, and the skies were born, an endless dome shimmering with promise. The third day brought forth the foundations of the earth. The seas gathered into their basins, and dry land appeared, clothed in green. Grass and trees sprang up, yielding seed, bearing fruit, covering the earth with life and color. On the fourth day, the heavens blazed with celestial lights. The sun to govern the day, the moon to rule the night, and countless stars spread across the vast sky, set in place to mark seasons, days, and years. The fifth day filled the waters with living creatures, fish of every kind, great sea monsters gliding through the depths, and birds taking flight across the expanse of the sky. The air trembled with their beating wings, and the oceans stirred with life. On the sixth day, the earth teemed with creatures, cattle grazing in fields, wild beasts roaming the lands, and creeping things moving along the soil, each according to its kind. But then, in the quiet of creation, came a pause. Something more was yet to be made, something in the very image of the Creator himself. And so, from the dust of the ground, God formed man. With tender hands, he shaped every detail, and then he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And man became a living soul. This first man was called Adam. God placed Adam in a garden unlike any other, the Garden of Eden. It was lush and perfect, filled with every tree that was pleasing to the eye and good for food. At its heart stood two trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Rivers flowed from Eden, watering the garden, splitting into four. Mighty streams that nourished the world beyond. Adam walked in harmony with creation, naming the animals, tending the garden. Yet God saw that it was not good for man to be alone. So he caused Adam to fall into a deep sleep, and from his side he took a rib and fashioned it into a woman. When Adam awoke, he beheld her and said, "This is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh." She was called Eve, the mother of all living. Together, Adam and Eve dwelled in Eden. They were clothed not in garments, but in innocence. There was no shame, no fear, only pure communion with God and with each other. They walked freely, with the sound of the Lord's presence moving like a gentle breeze in the cool of the day. Yet in the midst of the garden stood a boundary. God had commanded them, "You may eat freely from every tree in the garden, but from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day you eat of it you shall surely die." Still, temptation lingered. The serpent, cunning and deceptive, whispered to Eve, twisting God's words. "You will not surely die," it hissed. "For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like him, knowing good and evil." Eve looked upon the tree. Its fruit was pleasing to the eye, desirable for gaining wisdom. She took it, ate, and gave some to Adam, and he ate. In that moment, their eyes were opened. Innocence vanished, replaced by the weight of shame. They realized they were naked and sewed fig leaves together as coverings. When they heard the sound of God walking in the garden, they hid among the trees. "Adam, where are you?" the voice of the Lord called. Trembling, Adam replied, "I heard your voice, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." God asked, "Who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten from the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" Adam pointed to Eve, and Eve pointed to the serpent. Yet guilt could not be escaped. Judgment was spoken. To the serpent, God declared, "Cursed are you above all beasts. You shall crawl on your belly, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, between her seed and yours. He shall crush your head, and you shall strike his heel." To the woman, he said, "I will greatly multiply your sorrow in childbirth. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you. To Adam he said, because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree, cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat from it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall produce. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat your bread until you return to the ground, for dust you are, and to dust you shall return. And so Adam named his wife Eve, for she was destined to become the mother of all the living. God in his mercy clothed them in garments of skin. Yet they could no longer remain in Eden, for if they reached out and ate also from the tree of life, they would live forever in their fallen state. So God sent them out from the garden to till the ground from which they were taken. At the east of Eden, he placed cherubim and a flaming sword, flashing back and forth to guard the way to the tree of life. And thus began the story of humanity. Born in innocence, fallen in temptation, yet never abandoned by their Creator. For even in judgment there was a promise, a Redeemer to come, one who would restore what was lost, one who would crush the serpent's head, one who would open the way back to life eternal. From that day forward, Adam and Eve carried with them the memory of Eden, the beauty of paradise, the nearness of God, and the longing for restoration. And through them the generations of mankind began, spread across the earth, carrying both the weight of sin and the hope of redemption. The story of creation is not merely the story of beginnings, but the story of purpose. A world crafted in beauty, designed for harmony, broken by disobedience, yet destined for restoration. A reminder that humanity was made in the image of God, created to walk with him, created to live in light, created for eternity. And so the voice of creation still echoes, that in the beginning God made the heavens and the earth, and it was good. And so Adam and Eve were cast out from Eden. The garden, once their home, became a distant memory, and their lives were now marked by toil and hardship. The perfection of the world they had known was lost. Yet even in their departure there was a promise of hope, a Redeemer to come, one who would restore what was lost and crush the serpent's head. The earth began to change. What was once lush and beautiful now became a place of struggle. The very ground, once rich with life, became a place of hardship, where Adam would till the soil, sweating with every breath. Eve would bear children in pain, yet she would bring forth the promise of life, continuing the legacy of mankind. Their children would walk in the same path of blessing and burden, carrying the weight of their parents' decision. And with each passing generation, the earth would be filled with both sorrow and hope. In the midst of their exile, Adam and Eve remembered the garden, the place where they walked with God, where their hearts knew no fear, no shame. But they also carried the weight of their disobedience. It was a weight they could never undo, yet they could look to the future with a glimmer of hope, for the promise of a Redeemer remained. God, in his mercy, did not abandon them. He clothed them, provided for them, and made a way for them to survive. But the garden was closed, and their hearts longed for a return to that place of purity and peace. The world, tainted by their fall, would never be the same. In time, Adam and Eve bore children, sons and daughters. Their legacy grew, and with it the knowledge of the Creator. Though their hearts carried the burden of sin, they also carried the promise of redemption. Humanity would rise and fall, each generation searching for the lost paradise. But the story of Adam and Eve is more than one of tragedy. It is a story of love, mercy, and the hope of restoration. For in the midst of their brokenness, God's plan was already unfolding. He would send his Son, a Redeemer, who would bring salvation to all who believed, who would offer grace and forgiveness to a fallen world. And through that Redeemer, the way to eternal life would be opened once more. As the generations continued, the earth would grow, people would multiply, and the promise of redemption would echo through the ages. The garden, lost to humanity, would one day be restored, but this time it would be a paradise that no one could ever lose again. The story of creation is not simply a tale of beginnings. It is the story of the enduring love of the Creator. The journey of mankind, though marred by sin, is a journey toward reconciliation with God, and though the fall of Adam and Eve brought suffering, it also ushered in the hope of redemption, a hope that still burns bright, even today. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on our latest videos. See you next time.